EV materials in short supply, BMW in court, MG top sales in the UK, US is using less gasoline, the last Lamborghini V12, Toyota cam problems, EV charging, LKQ buying more companies, and motorcycle racing in Northern Ireland is off. Hello and welcome to this week's MotorZen news. When I speak to people in the trade, one of the legitimate arguments that are made about the lack of materials for EVs, and this week a report has come out with that very subject, EV materials and a short supply. The report says that there may be a shortfall, as what they're predicting is that the volume of EVs will increase by 10 times by 2030. And this report says that there's issues to do with the supply of materials to make electric vehicles if this is prediction is to be achieved. What they're saying is that also as a result of the short supply of materials, it will mean that the price of the vehicles will be higher. It's also suggesting that the lack of charging infrastructure, the overload on the grid could be a problem. And then it's saying as a result of all these things coming together that people may turn off EVs. So sometimes I shoot down people when they make the argument against EVs, but this report is saying there are real issues here. So, but what it's also saying is that if industry and government come together, they believe they can sort these problems out. But at the end of the day, I can't see how government can find raw materials, and partly that's what this report says, is that the short supply or lack of availability of raw materials is the problem. So yeah, there are issues with EV, and it's not absolutely clear as to how they're going to be rectified with the ramping up of the volume of EVs. An environmental action group in Germany has taken BMW to court to stop selling ICE engines by 2030. And the case they were making was that property, health and life have been threatened by emitting greenhouse gases. They have lost this battle in the court. They are going to appeal it, but they had the same case against Mercedes last year and also lost that case. But the word is that more and more of the environmental action groups are going to take cases against manufacturers and hold them to account more and more. So again, this is the type of pressure the car manufacturers are coming under to try and become compliant in terms of environmental emissions. SIAC is the company who bought MG back in 2006, the traditional English brand. Well, an interesting milestone has been achieved, and we spoke about MG hitting some big figures in sales in Australia only a couple of weeks ago. Well, for the month of January, the MG HS Compact Crossover has been the best-selling vehicle in the UK market, and the SZ Compact Crossover has been 8th. So an amazing achievement here by a brand that had virtually disappeared. Then the Chinese company SAIC bought it in 2006. They had produced some ICE engine vehicles which didn't really do that well, but they certainly have made an impact with their electric vehicles on the UK market. The UK market for January, there was 132,000 vehicles sold. That's 15% up on the same period last year. EVs are 13% of the market for January. That's 20% up on last year. Diesel is 4%. That's 12% down on last year. So diesel just being 4% of the sales in January is just going to show you how the diesel segment is virtually disappearing. We did mention a story a couple of weeks ago about the fact that there would be less petrol, less gasoline consumed because we're going to start to use less, we're going to start to have less internal combustion engines. But the figures out from America for 2022 is to say that gasoline consumption in America was down 6% in 2022 against pre-pandemic levels. That's what they're comparing against 18-19 levels. But there's a couple of things contributing to this. Obviously, EV sales are partly contributing to it. They're increasing, and there's more EVs being used, less internal combustion engine being used, but also they're driving less. They're driving 10% less in America in 2022, and that's as a result of remote working and the type of hybrid working arrangements that have come into place or have been fast-tracked as a result of the pandemic. So 10% less driving, and also ICE engines are becoming more fuel efficient, so they're using less fuel. But yeah, 6% less gasoline sold in America in 2022. And again, keeping in the same vein of less fuel being used, the last ever V12 Lamborghinis are ruling off the production line. The last two cars have been built. They're one-off special built cars, but there will never again be a V12 engine produced by Lamborghini. So for a sad milestone in one way that we're reaching there. 6.5 litre, 770 brake horsepower, 7-speed all-wheel drive. That's the last. The next new products that will be produced by Lamborghini will be hybrid. Toyota have produced a tool that they're using on the production line, and they reckon it will save them $500,000 a year. They were having an issue with improper machining on cam lobes, and this is simply an LED light that streams out onto the lobe, and if the lobe is perfect, the pattern back onto the board is streamlined. If the lobe has got a problem on it, the beam will spread out on the whiteboard and they can pick up immediately if the lobe isn't right. They were having issues with chatter on startup as a result of these cam lobes being slightly machined incorrectly. So they reckon that this device is going to save them a massive amount of money because it's able to pick up those cam issues immediately on the production line. Continental have produced an EV charging robot. This is a device, for the time being, they're suggesting it will be positioned in your garage, and that you will drive your electric vehicle in and you have to do nothing else. You don't have to physically do anything in terms of plugging it in. It's going to pick up the charge points directly on the battery from underneath the vehicle, and also it's going to be bi-directional. So it's going to be able to put the charge back into the network as well. They're saying that it's much more efficient in charging than a wireless system, and also with the bi-directional, it's going to be able to instantly put charge back into the grid. And I think this is going to become a bigger feature of electric vehicles, that you're going to have your battery fully charged at low peak electric charge, and that you will be able to put that charge back into the network at high peak, so actually make some money on your electricity, particularly if the vehicle is sitting around. They're working with the idea of rolling these out on public parking places, in garages, service stations, and in places of work. They're going to try and make this as some form of a standard, that simply drive your car over this and it picks up the charge points. So a battle here between this system and the wireless system, which we're hearing and seeing a good bit of as well. Loose wheel indicator. So a company called Naira Dynamics have produced technology that will allow you to electronically pick up that a wheel is loose on your car. This system requires no hardware. This system is working through the ABS sensor. So it appears to be what they've done is they've been able to produce software that can pick up slight differences on the signal coming off the ABS sensor, due to the fact that you're getting vibration coming from the wheel to the hub to the sensor. So obviously very minute changes will be occurring on the signal coming off that sensor, but their software is able to pick this up and highlight to the driver that this is a loose wheel. Incredible technology to think that it doesn't require any other any added devices, any added components in and around the hub. It's using the ABS sensor to pick up this slight deviation in the signal coming off it and highlight that to the driver of the vehicle that he's got a loose wheel. LKQ, the company that owns Euro Car Parts, have bought a Dutch salvage and remanufacturing company. We reported a story a couple of weeks ago where the Competitions Authority in the UK stopped them from buying a big salvage yard in the UK. What Euro Car Parts or LKQ are saying is affordable and sustainable mobility is their goal. And when you look at this, you're saying, right, affordable and sustainable. Affordable because they're going to try and feed OE parts and remanufactured parts into the parts distribution network. Sustainable is that we're reusing these parts or recycling these parts. And this appears to be becoming a massive part of breakers yards, and used parts is becoming so fashionable, or it's going to become so fashionable into the future to repair your vehicle with parts that are already there, as opposed to buying new parts. LKQ is Europe's largest automotive parts provider. In America, when the company started, it started off in dismantling and remanufacturing. So the question is, do we see a situation where LKQ Euro Car Parts will feed these parts into the parts counter? So when you go to the parts counter, you will have the option to get a new part or a remanufactured part or an OE used part. These could possibly be the options when you try and price a particular part, because if they get their infrastructure right, they'll be able to have all those parts available to you in the same way as a new part is available today. Motorcycling Union of Ireland came out this week to say that road racing will not take place this year in Northern Ireland. Motorcycle road racing. Northern Ireland is famous for it around the world. The biggest event on the calendar is the Northwest. Takes place in May. It's the biggest sporting event, the biggest outdoor sporting event in Northern Ireland. And it's off. It's off this year because of insurance. The premium last year was 170,000. The premium this year is 410,000. And the Motorcycling Union of Ireland is saying it can't be done. They can't raise the money for it. And also the insurance companies have come back and said the excess in the event of any serious accident is 300,000. So it's really not feasible for Motorcycling Union of Ireland to take this on. And a very sad time for motorcycle racing in Northern Ireland, a very sad time for motorsport overall. But the insurance thing just looks to be unsustainable for the organisers of these events. You know the routine. If you could please like, comment and subscribe. And every couple of days or every couple of weeks I meet the couple of guys that are watching it, and they really say that they like it and they like the content and they appreciate it. So if you could please just think of maybe sharing it with one other guy who have a similar interest, or a guy or girl who has a similar interest in the trade as you. That sharing may help us in a big way. So if you could do that for us, we'd really appreciate it. And tune in next week. See you then.